What's up, everybody? Welcome back and happy Skews Day to you. I know what you're thinking. The answer is no. I'm not going to be laying down any funky jazz riffs for you on this episode. Wearing the shades because I had to have eye surgery again. If you followed the show for a while, you know it's the second time. Hopefully, it will be the last. Don't worry about me. Nothing life threatening. Just trying to make my eyes work the way eyes are supposed to work. In the meantime, don't get too distracted by how overwhelmingly cool I look over the course of this episode because we got some serious stuff to talk about, okay? It's May 10th, 2022. I'm Trey Crowder, and that's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? I dig the look, man. You kind of got your own little. Remember when Steve Urkel turned into Stefan or Cal? You got super cool. It's like one of those. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you can see, though, bud. I hope that surgery works out. I don't have to lead you around public places when we're out.
Man.
A lot to talk about today. To start with some fun stuff. So Steve Schmidt, who helped run McCain's campaign in 2008, lit Twitter on fire the other night with a 20 tweet thread. It seemed like he was maybe a couple pulls off the scotch bottle, but he essentially argued that McCain's 2008 campaign was infiltrated by Russia and also called Meghan McCain a huge diva bitch. So that was fun.
Nobody's immune from, drunk Twittering, you know what I mean? Or unless you just got some sense. But I'm saying anybody that both drinks and fucks with Twitter, you really got to watch it,
Yeah, when you're typing in the /X in the middle of a thread, you'd be like, wait a minute, should I drink a glass of water?
Right. Yeah.
Madison Cawthorn news, there was an article in Rolling Stone this week that said that one of the reasons Trump turned on him is like this series of weird video sex, not scandals, but like bro-y stuff he was doing. When it filtered through the pipeline, because Trump was banned from social media, what Trump got out of it was that he's fucking his cousin. So he doesn't like Madeleine Cawthorn anymore because he thinks he's fucking his cousin.
I love how Trump has got all these like hang-ups with, like all that stuff with Mandel and the guy that was working with Mandel and all this stuff. It's like Trump hears that they're all into like weird stuff with their butts or whatever, and then he's like, "Yeah, I can't have no part of that." It's like it's a funny line for him to have drawn. I feel like.
Yeah, can't have any weirdos around Donald Trump.
Right.
I think because the guy, he's got a campaign finance scandal where he overpaid one of his subordinates, who I guess is his cousin. That cousin, I also might be the guy in the car video who touched his dick.
Right.
Funny. So I think that's what Trump took out of that.
But the dude whose face he humped, that's not his cousin? I feel like I heard that was his cousin too. It's just cousins all the way down over there.
Yeah, man. When you make it to the top like Cawthorn, you take your boys with you, right?
And then put your dick in their face.
Yeah. Speaking of weirdos, it's Trump's former defense secretary, Mark Esper, is doing his book tour, and lots of fun stuff he's revealing 3 years after it could possibly matter.
Right. Every time, dude. Anytime you see like some old administration official pop up out of nowhere with some like bombshell shit, every time you're like, oh, so they wrote a book then, and they've got a book coming out, and every time it's like, where was this while you were actually in it? It's like, well, I wasn't writing a book then. I'm writing a book now.
He's like, well, responsible people had to stay in government to try to keep the ultimate bad things that happened. But one of the examples he gave was that Trump wanted to deploy the 82nd Airborne to battle BLM protesters in D.C. in June of 2020. And in Esper's compromise position was to deploy a National Guard element of the 82nd Airborne, like to the outskirts of D.C. It's not like you didn't stop at jack shit, bud. You also gave a press conference with Trump where he's completely tongued his asshole real deep in the middle of that. But one of the funny ones was Trump's big complaint about the Navy was that our boats are ugly. He wanted to get newer, cooler looking boats.
Like maybe something with my name emblazoned across the top of
some gold fringe. That'd be good hit.
Yeah, need gold destroyers. That's what we need to focus on.
Yeah. He also pitched Esper on the idea of shooting cruise missiles into Mexico to blow up some cartel headquarters or something. Trump's image of how the drug business works is interesting, but I guess he thought there was like a big drug factory. If we just bombed that, there wouldn't be any more drugs. And but we thought we could get away with it because we just say it wasn't us, which is always like the Shaggy defense, baby. It's undefeated. Another funny thing came out of this is like one of the previous Secretary of Defense under Trump, William Cohen, said he believes everything in Esper's book, and he relayed this conversation they had where an advisor said Mr. President, you can't do that. Trump, why not? Advisor, it's illegal. Trump, so what? Advisor, you can be prosecuted. Trump, by whom? Now, people are like, LOL, Trump's stupid, but like whether you think that's Trump being stupid or Trump being smart is like a fun prism with which to see how you see the next 20 years playing out.
I don't know
think
if I'd
Trump's
call
smarter
it
than
right. I don't know if I would necessarily call it like him being smart, but like, show me the lie, I guess. Like when I read that, and it's like, I mean, answer the question. Who is going to prosecute him? Like, it's been proven to be pretty true so far. It's not like he refrained from breaking laws while in office, but, ain't nobody come for him yet. So I feel like that's not that outlandish of a quote, really.
Yeah, he's got a 50-year run as a criminal going with no prosecution. So he's a tremendously way better understanding of how power works in America than all the people who are trying to stop him, which is probably the reason why, even though he's incredibly stupid, he keeps running laps around them. But speaking of being stupid, this story came out today where Trump repeatedly asked people through the entire of his presidency if China had a weapon which would create hurricanes and throw them at America. And if so, is it an act of war, and can we retaliate?
I wonder if there were some people in Trump's inner circle that were sitting there like, so wait, are we saying that China's working with the gays now? Like, is that what's going on? Like, they're getting a bunch of gay people together in a room and making them have sex, and that, because everybody knows that's where hurricanes come from, right?
Yeah,
and then they've developed some kind of technology to deploy the hurricane in our direction. That's the missing piece here. We got the gay sex, hurricane, question mark, weaponized hurricane. And Trump's got like a vision board outlining all this.
Like when our special ops guys like help with like targeting with laser guided missiles, they like will sneak into a place and then shoot the laser at it so the bomb knows exactly what to hit. Right. China does that, except they just have gay operatives sneak into our major cities, so then the hurricanes go after them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're laser target.
Yeah. The big Chinese black op have a big gay orgy in Miami or something. Next thing you know, here comes a hurricane. Can't stop that. Although he did have an idea for stopping the hurricanes, right?
Yeah, he wanted to nuke them.
Nuke them. Why not? Why wouldn't that work?
Yeah.
You just explode a hurricane. Ain't no hurricane no more.
Even just the hurricane-based dumbassery of his presidency is just like, it's not just the China's throwing hurricanes at us. We got to nuke the hurricanes. And also, a hurricane's going to hit Alabama, and the National Weather Service goes, no, they're not. So he redrew the map with a Sharpie. And then that caused an IG report where they investigated and found the Trump administration was pressuring the National Weather Service to alter the course of the hurricane on paper so he would retroactively be right. And This is like, what the God.
Right. Like you said, like literally just the hurricane related aspects of his administration would amount to like the full course of dumbassery from most presidential administrations, what I mean? In terms of really stupid shit to come out of an administration. He covers most people's quota just with his hurricane stuff, Yeah, that's pretty wild. All right. Well, let's get into it. I'm probably going to do this a couple of times throughout the show because I know people come and go. I had eye surgery. I'm not just being super cool. That's why I got sunglasses on. Let's get into the show, though. Producer Matt is with us as always. This is Weekly Skews. I want to remind you of a couple of things, naturally. Number one, if you're vaccinated and want to see me live, you can go to TreyCrowder.com. I'm doing some solo shows this summer. Going to be around Ohio, upstate New York, Iowa, Arkansas. We got some new dates getting posted, too. So go to TreyCrowder.com, check it out, and come and see me. We'll have a good time. Secondly, if you enjoy this here show and you'd like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. $5 a month. You get full-length bonus episodes like the one we did last week on big data, selling your info to the Lord. We're going to do some more apps this week, too. We're having fun with it. We hope you'll join us. You go to weeklyskews.com/more or patreon.com/myname. Just look me up on Patreon. Either way works. $5 a month. Get some more skews in your life and show us your support in the process. We would appreciate it. Now, as for tonight's episode, we are 1 week removed from the earth-shattering Supreme Court leak foretelling the end of Roe v. Wade, and not much has happened since then, really. It's been pretty quiet on that front. No, I'm kidding. Everything is on fire. The GOP lawmakers around the country have completely lost their minds in the wake of that news. They're doing their best to ruin the lives of women everywhere. We'll get into the details a little bit later. But first, as always, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Speaking of everything being on fire, our DD tonight is anybody who thought Emperor Nero was the only one who knew how to get down while civilization burned.
My friend, Dr.
No, that ain't it, Matt. We'll get to that one in a minute. We got to get to him, dancing a jig. Hell, now I spoiled it. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's still goofy. You'll see when Matt gets it up there. Yeah, there we go. There it is. Look at them moves.
Oh yeah.
All right. Doesn't that just make you feel good? Feel patriotic? It's fun. It's so funny to me anytime I see stuff like that, knowing that there are people in that crowd who genuinely in their minds, they're like, God, he is so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's like when when you go to the Skinner concert, they finally get to Freebird.
Yeah, Elvis shakes his hips, man. For these people, it's literally like that, which is wild to think about.
Get ready to play that other dancing video, Matt, because I want to show you this because this is like one. You're like, well, didn't Trump usually dance to YMCA? Yes, he always has before. That's Sam and Dave. I'm coming, and to me that's revelatory because like Trump's running in 2024, but he hasn't officially announced it because when you officially announce, it kicks in a bunch of extra campaign finance reporting and oversight, and people checking up on your money doesn't really hit for Donald Trump. So instead, he just alludes to the fact he might run and plays a song that says "I'm coming," and then. But anyway, so this same dance. This is his new stanky leg. Here we go.
Losing their minds, dude.
Waiting for like granny panties to hit him in the head.
I know. That's like oxygen tank mask thrown at the stage, stuff like that.
Oh God!
Is any of that? I've heard that before. I've heard people say, the whole campaign finance thing, and it totally makes sense. Is any of that like in any way retroactive or anything? Or I mean, because why wouldn't you just? I mean, why wouldn't you just do? I mean, if you're him, I get with most people, you got to start a campaign as early as possible, I guess. But if you're him, I mean, why wouldn't you just wait until the very last minute? Just do whatever you want with all that money.
I mean, again, it's illegal. So what? Who's going to you could be prosecuted by who? So like our campaign finance laws are completely unenforced anyway. Like the worst that happens to somebody is you have to pay back a little. If you're a nobody congressman, sometimes you get hit with a federal investigation, but like for the most part, you just do whatever you want. I mean, the Supreme Court legalized bribery essentially. One of the reasons our politics have gotten is completely insane is because billionaires are allowed to buy the entirety of our public discourse because they can't stuff like Citizens United, and a few deranged billionaires are driven the country insane. So that's just where we're at. That first video of Trump dancing was at a rally he had in Pennsylvania for a bunch of candidates in the middle of a torrential downpour where the whole audience was up to their knees in mud and couldn't make their way out at the end of the night. But in the meantime, they were treated
like Woodstock, dude. I'm telling you, they're down there.
But even though Dr. Oz has gotten the coveted Trump endorsement, it doesn't seem to have actually helped much. Check out this reception he got.
My friend, Dr. Mehmet Oz. He's a great man.
They fucking hate that dude. He got booed the whole time. Even when he would do he did his stump speech where he's like, we got to keep the borders. He used the word clean if he couldn't remember the word for closed or strong, and they would go, yeah, we agree with that premise. Boo. We gotta stop. We gotta save the Second Amendment. Yeah, boo. Like cheer the point, then boo him personally. It's this is so humiliating for these dudes. I honestly don't know why. I keep waiting for Oprah to like ether him, but I guess she's just sitting it out. Let me show. Actually, I talked about him. Show the next video of Dr. Oz, Matt. The one of him actually trying to talk to this crowd. Even though I just sort of spoiled it.
Face and we'll fight back. Are you going to fight China? Will you fight for our kids in our schools? Are you going to fight back to keep our borders clean? Are you going to fight back to
fight back to keep our borders clean?
Yeah,
this guy talking
keep our borders good and the kids smart and all that.
If he was talking about how to sell, magic powder that cures cancer, he'd be right in his wheelhouse.
I know, dude. I was about to say, it's like I kind of find this sort of weird because he's been a television personality for a long fucking time. Like you wouldn't think this would be the part of it that is a problem for him. But evidently, it's like you said, I guess you just get outside of like miracle weight loss cures or whatever, and he starts to lose it a little bit. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah.
found that kind of odd.
He doesn't know how to talk to these people, and a good way to talk about that. Let's look at this campaign ad he made about about guns and the Second Amendment, because it's edifying.
My father taught me how to handle my first gun. I taught my son Oliver how to do the same. I've been shooting and hunting my whole life. So when people say I won't support guns, they're dead wrong. Boom!
Watch this.
Nailed it.
All right.
Other conservatives know that I'm strong.
Great shot.
So one, I've never met anybody who shot skeet. To my knowledge, it's not actual common redneck gun activity. It's more of a rich guy with a country estate activity, right?
It's definitely, I mean, my experience, I'm from a redneck as hell place where people love guns and hunting and stuff like that. Matt says it's big in Iowa. I remember in South Dakota, Christy Nome had her own skeet shooting video. But in the part of Tennessee where I'm from, I never knew anybody to shoot skeet either. It was, beer bottles.
Maybe I'm wrong about
shit.
that. Maybe
beer bottles and deer from the highway and stuff like that. Is what we were shooting.
I mean, skeet seems expensive to me. Like our version of that would be filling up a 22-gallon jug of water and shooting and watching it blow up.
Right.
But
yeah,
the funny part, when he shot the skeet, you can tell it wasn't him shooting the skeet because but they did the cutaway. So you saw him shoot, then you cut to another shot of the skeet being shot.
Right.
It's like an Air Bud when you see the dog hit the basketball, then it cuts away and you see it go in the basket.
Yeah, there's no reason to do that. Like they would absolutely want the shot of him shooting it if they had it. So cutting away like that, there's only one answer for that.
Yeah,
He can't shoot for shit, Mark.
Yeah. That campaign is going to get really ugly because, there's some polling data come out today that, since March, Oz has only gone up 2% from 20 to 22. Meanwhile, this woman named Barnett, who's the most MAGA-y candidate in there, surged from 9 to 19. She's the authentic, real deal. She's not a faker like Oz. She's absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. And I remember her comeback. This is like. What's the name of that rich? What's the name of the horseman over the weekend? The one in Kentucky Derby from 10 places back in the final stretch.
Rich Strike.
Yeah, she's the Rich Strike of this race. I think is what's happening.
Ooh, look out! That means somebody's going to punch her in the face after she wins.
Yeah,
anybody that didn't watch the Kentucky Derby, the horse that won was a huge long shot and then got punched in the face by his trainer afterwards because he wouldn't stop trying to bite other horses. It was a wild scene. There.
Yeah, he was hyped up. He was talking shit. He was like, "Fuck you, other horse."
Yeah.
But this campaign is gonna get really ugly and gross because people seem to think Oz has a chance. So they discovered he's Muslim.
Right.
And I guess he has dual citizenship in Turkey, so there's lots of stuff being thrown around about him being a threat to national security and shit, just because he voted in a Turkish election fairly recently or something. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we got for honorable mentions here? Let's see. Doctor Strange 2 for only being the second biggest blockbuster to come out in America this week. That's right. In case you missed it, big news from Dinesh D'Souza, his cinematic. Bombshell he dropped. If you got that, Matt, talking about 2,000 Mules.
Yeah.
Do we have it? This video is
So I got to see this movie, 2,000 Mules, down here in Palm Beach, and I left disgusted that something like this can happen in America. Smoking gun proof is what Dinesh D'Souza and True the Vote found of election fraud. So here is my message to any law enforcement officer, federal agent, that is working in Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania. You watch this movie, and then you ask yourselves, how do we not investigate? All it takes is one law enforcement officer or federal agent to say, I'm going to look into this and prove what Dinesh D'Souza proved privately.
All right, so I'll talk about the movie in a second.
So I got to see this movie.
This is absolutely the best indicator of who actually runs our country. Is you got an angry guy with his shirt off, who's a rich dude, he's overtanned, feeling oppressed and demanding that the cops overthrow the government in Georgia because he's mad at a movie he saw. This movie called 2,000 Mules. Dinesh D'Souza made it on a shoestring budget, of course, because he doesn't have any money, but it's made $1 million. It's streaming on some right-wing site, streaming on Rumble, I think. A bunch of people are watching this movie and get really into it. It doesn't prove anything. He looks at a bunch of GPS data from like poll workers' phones that he can't understand. And then he has like surveillance video of people in the offices counting the ballots, moving paper around. That's it. That's what's in this. But
right. And it's also funny. This dude calling on cops to go rogue. He actually says the word go rogue at some point and like investigate this in Wisconsin and Georgia. And it's funny to think of like a QAnon cop in Wisconsin or something deciding I'm going to be the one who breaks this whole thing wide open, you know, and then he just like dicks around on 8chan for 2 weeks and fucking gets a little crazier and maybe makes a cork board with some red string in his basement or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like he's, you know, it ain't going to be Woodward and Bernstein with this outfit. Also, there's nothing there. It's not true. So it's going to be pretty hard to break it open considering it didn't happen. But, you know, I never stopped them from trying.
They are, like, the thing is, like, they're so good at manufacturing bullshit. If they could find a scintilla of anything, it would be a huge story for the rest of our lives. But they can't even find a thing to hang a thing on.
Right.
You know, but it's like this is completely divided the normal shitmongers. They had a big movie screening. All the luminaries were there. Marjorie Taylor Greene flew down to Mar-a-Lago. A bunch, everybody, every right-wing talk personality was there. Every crazy congressperson. Trump pretended to watch it, then read a review that he. If you got the video of Trump talking about it, because he just read off a piece of paper, I bet you he didn't even watch the movie. He left the room on that.
Yep, here we go. He's got it. I can see what he's got going on over here. I got behind the scenes insight.
The evidence of this documentary demands immediate action from federal, state, and local law enforcement.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can feel the energy. He definitely believes everything he's saying. But D'Souza's mad because Tucker Carlson won't talk about his documentary, and neither will Newsmax. Isn't covered. He's been tweeting at Newsmax, like beefing with them. They're airing his ads that he pays for. They just won't do news coverage about it. And the reason these places won't cover it is very straightforward. It's that they're all already being sued for this shit, and they don't want to be sued anymore.
Right. Because they know that it's not true or real. Like they're, you know, so they will be opening themselves up to a lawsuit, so they can't do it. But he ain't having it, though. He's not happy about it, Dinesh.
Yeah, this is a story from this week. One American News, it finally admits no widespread voter fraud after settling a defamation suit. They were sued by these two women who are election workers who got named by One America and consequently got a bunch of death threats and harassment. And there's the story from Daily Beast about him promoting Dinesh being mad at Tucker Carlson. So One American News had to run instead of covering this, they had to run a 30-second announcement saying we're full of shit, we lied, there was no election fraud. That's one of the things the lady got in their suit, which is really funny to me. And so that's what Tucker and Newsmax are trying to avoid, is having to do that, because it would puncture, not that anything punctures their bubble, but it might actually have some impact. So that's the state of those dipshits. I can't. This is going to staff the second Trump administration. Is all these people?
Yeah, they like only get crazier, you know, and it's super alarming. Speaking of which, Matt, if you could pull up that campaign ad from this Q candidate in Ohio. Is it Ohio?
Yeah, J.R. Majewski. This is the guy we talked about on Friday. He just won the primary, the Republican primary.
On the Patreon episode?
Yeah, he's a huge Q supporter, and his claim to fame was painting his 19,000-foot yard into a Trump Q sign before the election in 2020.
And that qualifies you for Congress, baby.
For context here, this guy said, I actually don't believe in Q. I never believed any of it. What are you guys talking about? Don't even know what Q is. I'm not crazy. I promise I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Here's his first campaign ad.
Their agenda is bringing America to its knees. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to return this country back to its former glory. And if I gotta kick down doors, well, that's just what patriots do. When I'm elected, I won't bow to establishment pawns or power.
What is he actually saying?
I know.
I will hold my own and demand that once again, America stands independent and strong, like the country that I fought for.
Kicking down doors. Knocking
Patriots,
signs
the
up.
cowardice ends with us. It's time to restore American dominance.
So
Dude.
he's just wandering around an abandoned warehouse, and if there's any meaning there, he knocks the closed sign. I can't tell if he's going to say I'm going to reopen the factory,
I
or
know.
they're saying I'm going to let businesses stay open during the next pandemic. I can't really tell what.
Yeah,
Which thing
who the
he's
hell
going to.
knows? But yeah, it's like I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't the first one, but I swear ever since fucking Dan Crenshaw went like full Avengers with that one campaign ad of his where he jumps out of a plane and all this shit. I feel like they always think they got to do, it's always got to be some like fucking SWAT team, $5 bin action movie type shit they're trying to do in their ads. Because of course you got to have a gun. You can't have an ad without a gun. And if you're gonna have a gun, you might as well have some smoke effects and kick some doors open or blow some shit up or knock some stuff down or whatever. Because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, you just gotta like all these people would do anything to survive the apocalypse except go for a run. I don't get it.
I like that. All right, tell you what I don't like though. All the fallout so far from the big Supreme Court. Pending Supreme Court decision from the leak last week about Roe v. Wade being in serious jeopardy. Since that's happened, Republican lawmakers around the country have taken a very uncharacteristic step for them. They've been working a lot. They've been like trying to do stuff, which is way, way out of character. But, they're motivated, Mark. They're motivated by the opportunity to pass some truly draconian laws restricting the rights of women, and they're all over it, huh?
Yeah, but that's not the big deal, Trey. The big deal is that people are protesting it, and that cannot stand.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
So that's you're right. The right wing won a 50-year battle, and instead of being like, "We did it, guys, high five," it's no, we are still the victims, and we cannot. Meanwhile, the Democrats' response has been like, "You know what? You're right. You are the victims. Let's yell at our own protesters."
Right.
And so it's manifested in this completely horseshit story that dominated the news the last 2 days about people standing in front of Brett Kavanaugh's house. And you hit this play on this, man.
This was enough to force Justice Alito and his entire family into hiding. They've moved now to an undisclosed location.
You'll be shocked, Trey, that did not happen. What happened was some commentator was on Fox News, said she heard that. The story went mega viral. Somebody went back and asked her where she got the information from. And she said, I don't know. I just heard it somewhere. I can't remember where. Maybe I read it on Twitter. And in response
state of journalism, baby. The journalism at an all-time high in this country. I tell you what, look at literally the headline. So there are unconfirmed reports that a Supreme Court justice had to flee his home in light of the draft Roe v. Wade opinion. The source can't remember where he heard it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I feel like somebody said it. Pointing at some other guy like, hey, Rick, you heard that, right? Yeah, see, he heard it. Everybody heard it. You know, just stuff people are saying.
I saw footage from the actual protest in front of Kavanaugh's house. One thing people want to talk about, these are people who live in Kavanaugh's neighborhood. These aren't like outside Antifa agitators coming in. There's a bunch of Brett Kavanaugh's neighbors like sitting in lawn chairs in front of his house holding signs and having wine and cheese. Mm-hmm. This is what's happening. And
the horror.
In response to that, the right spins it as death threats, and then you immediately have every Democratic leader on the planet, it's out of a few sensible ones, passing laws to give more security to the Supreme Court. They literally the same day, unanimous consent, gave them all paid security. I think the House lost to pass it. The White House condemned the protesters because they think they could turn violent. It's like, well, based on, like, what are you talking about here?
I feel like it's because all these motherfuckers on both sides are so, like, both fearful and disgusted of the people they represent or work for. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, it's of utmost importance. It's a bipartisan issue that they are protected from having to interact with us at all costs, because that's just completely outside the pale, for them to have to do that.
I'm not the first person to raise this point, but by the Supreme Court itself overturned a law that forbade protesting at the houses of abortion providers 6-3, like 25 years ago. So, like, the Supreme Court says you can protest at people's houses, and then people come protest their house and go, "Oh, wait, no, not like that." And
right.
and also, like, somebody dug up they said this is against federal law, and dug up this obscure federal statute that says you can't protest judges. And you go back and look where it came from. It's from 1950. It was a package of laws designed to persecute communists. The law also gave the president authority to round up communists and said every communist had to register with the government. Truman refused to sign it because it was so over the top, but they beat the veto, and it was resultantly struck down largely by the courts, and it was so oppressive that it was Richard Nixon signed a law repealing the bulk of it after the government had built 4 concentration camps for communists. Thankfully, never put anybody in there. I feel like my ass would end up in there.
For sure. Yeah, we'd be destined for some kind of gulag.
Yeah.
Don't count it out, Mark. All right, there's still time.
Yeah.
We could end up in the gulag yet, buddy. Yeah, just give it a little while longer.
But this upside down freak out got to such an extent that Susan fucking Collins, Republican senator from Maine, called the cops because someone used the chalk you draw on sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote a message that said, Susan, please sign the Women's Health Protection Act, undo your mess. And she called the police on that. The thing said, look at that. It said, please. It said, please, and referred to legislation. And she called the cops. And the cops came and took out a hose and washed it off.
Like
this is like
elementary school Antifa operation out here.
Yeah.
Like that is the most innocuous form of protest or whatever. And that's what I'm saying about how they feel like they should be protected from having to interact with their constituents or deal with them in any way, because there's really no more polite way to get a message across to a lawmaker than to draw a cutesy chalk drawing that's worded politely and says, please, would you please consider this? And it's not paint. Like you said, you could wash it right off. And she's like, call my security, get the police over here. And then, Fox News, death threats outside Susan Collins' home. It's ridiculous, man.
There was after the ruling came out, there was a protest here in LA. And cops, of course, showed up and cracked a bunch of fucking heads. The Department of Homeland Security was there cracking heads. Why the Department of Homeland Security is policing a domestic protest in Los Angeles that's very peaceful about abortion rights, I don't know. But then also, that's how the cops treat you if you want rights. If you're a U.S. senator, the cops will come into your house and wash your driveway.
Right. I saw that clip you're talking about that was in L.A., and I didn't even realize that the Department of Homeland Security had like black and whites like that, like squad cars like that, that could just roll up in the middle of L.A. in a protest and get out just looking like regular cops. I thought that was wild. I guess it was because they were in front of like some federal building or something, but either way, yeah, they get out and immediately start showing their ass. The cops did, imagine that, but yeah.
Yeah, and this is the party that cares about doing this because they care so much about women. They care so much about babies. And here's an interview, by the way. We're gonna get into the the nitty gritty of the policy stuff in a second. But just if you want to believe these people believe anything they're saying, watch this interview clip real quick. This is a gubernatorial candidate for Colorado.
You are pro-life without exceptions for rape and incest and life or health of the mother. Additionally, in 1993, you were arrested for violently assaulting your then pregnant wife. Some people might see those two things at odds, but they both involve you exerting control over a woman's body. Is that what Coloradans want from their governor?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a violent situation. If you go back and
you were arrested for assault.
We were both arrested for assault.
All right.
Both of us.
So it wasn't like I beat up a pregnant lady. I was in a fist fight with a pregnant lady.
Right. She got some good licks in. Okay. You weren't there. What was I supposed to do? Not punch her back? Come on.
Yeah.
This is America. Yeah. Right after this, he goes on to say, listen, there was only one perfect man that ever lived, and we nailed him to the cross. Okay. I am not a perfect man. Just playing the Jesus card over assaulting his pregnant wife.
Who amongst us hasn't punched a pregnant woman in the ribs, Trey? Only Jesus.
Sure. Jesus is the only one who's never done that.
I feel like we find at least one of these guys every week, but here's another one. This guy just won a party primary in Indiana. Man accused of killing his wife wins GOP primary from jail.
Look at that.
That won his fucking primary. The story's even worse than that. He was accused of killing his cancer-stricken wife as she was trying to divorce him. He will be on the ballot in November if he's not convicted. What happened was in last March, they got in a domestic dispute, and he hit her in the head with a concrete flower pot and then dumped her body in a creek. Make America okay to hit women in the head with flower pots again, I guess, and also save babies. God, this fucking people.
Dude, it's one of the things. I just feel like, again, sometimes some of these things feel made up. They're so on the note. You know what I mean? That they're literally electing people from prison for violently, for literally murdering a woman. It's one of those you couldn't write it type of things because of how fucking insane it is.
Yeah. One reason I want to tell you guys about this stuff is like they'll be like, oh well, there's a few bad apples, right? But it's not like the whole party's misogynist, and that's why they're doing it. I'm here to tell you the whole party's fucking misogynist. Here's a rundown of some shit that happened in the last. Remember, the opinion hasn't even been released yet, right? It's not the law. An Arizona GOP candidate wants to ban condoms in all 50 states. This guy, Blake Masters, who's a Peter Thiel puppet, we'll get to that in a second. He wants Griswold v. Connecticut overturned. That's the law we talked about before that says married people can use contraception. He's not the only one. We'll get to those in a second too. He only wants to confirm federal judges that understand that Roe, Griswold, and Casey were only decided there's no constitutional right to abortion. He was the first to come out and say he wanted to ban contraception, but he hasn't been the last. And this happened after. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm from the Bible Belt, and like the fucking a very rural part of the Bible Belt. And like, I can remember because there were some families like being so hardcore religious that you were anti-contraception, like that sex was only meant for making a baby and nothing else. Like every time you had sex, you had to be prepared to have a baby because that's what sex was for. That was considered like fringe shit, even among the other Jesus people where I grew up. You know what I mean? Because there were a couple of families that were like that, and people talked about it. It's like, yeah, they're pretty hardcore because they think this. Like, I can't imagine what abortion. Sure, when you're talking about hardcore Christians, but like this shit it just seems so extreme to me, even for these people. And look, man, condoms, we all hate condoms. Sure, of course we do. But
yeah, condoms don't hit.
No, they don't hit. But look, you got to have them. And I feel like most people agree with that. Like, it cannot be a very high percentage of people who would be on board with this, I wouldn't think.
Well, I mean, Trey, I spent years on the road doing stand-up. If it went for condoms, I'd be dead 5 times over.
There you go.
The funny thing about this, well, by the way, even birth control is used for a lot of shit besides birth control. I'm not just talking about making balloons and condoms into water balloons. But I mean, like birth control pills shouldn't be called birth control.
Right.
That's like the last thing the least common purpose for it. I mean, sure, you want to be able to have sex and not get pregnant, but also 13-year-olds don't start taking it because they're having a bunch of sex. It's because it helps them regulate their hormones, keeps periods from being so painful. It keeps kids from having cysts. It makes women's titties hurt less when they're on this cycle. It's like it has a bunch of other effects. It's just like it's only called birth control because a man named it. It's like, oh, we get the jizz in them now. Okay, that's it. That's the name of it. If you want to, like, the funny part about this is like the Republican National Senate Committee put out a statement saying it's a lie that we want to ban birth control. No responsible Republicans wants to take away contraception. He immediately goes, nope, I want to take away contraception. As far as who he is personally, Peter Thiel, the same right-wing Silicon Valley psycho who injects himself with the blood of young people to stay young. That's true. Also bankrolled J.D. Vance's campaign. He's given $10 million to Blake Masters. We're going to talk about Peter Thiel again in a few minutes about something different. Masters is trying to challenge Democrat Mark Kelly. Fun Blake Masters factoid, he also raised another $600,000 selling NFTs. Mitch McConnell, so also not getting the memo about contraception. Marsha Blackburn, she spent a ton of time during the Ketanji Brown Jackson hearing talking about overturning Griswold, and she seems to mean it, even though she's trying to subtly backtrack. But no, she sucks. And here's a video of Tate Reeves on Sunday's show. This is Mississippi's governor, where he sort of fudges around, but doesn't say he wouldn't sign a bill to outlaw birth control. Maybe he doesn't have that.
No, I think he's pulling it up, and then it's going to be just me and you, Mark. Producer Matt's going to have to leave us after this.
said that you believe life begins at conception. If there is legislation brought to you to ban contraception, would you sign it?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen in Mississippi. I'm sure they'll have those conversations in other
you're
states.
not answering the question.
As is always the case with things, well, that's always the case. There's
you can cut him out. He's not answering the question. Would you sign a bill if it came to you? Well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to come to me. Well, will you? But it's not the fucking question. That's not the question. Asa Hutch, sorry.
Marsha Blackburn, I saw in a tweet about her deal with it, that she opposed contraception for everybody except for married couples. Did you read that? Is that accurate? Because that's particularly crazy to me. And to me, it's like, yeah, everybody but teenagers. We can teenagers in particular do not need access to birth control. Because it's like, and I feel like part of the rationale for them is because then they don't need to be having sex at all. Why do they need birth control when they shouldn't be having sex? Abstinence only education or whatever. But anybody, you'd sooner lasso the moon than keep teenagers from porking each other. It's just what they do. Mm-hmm. And restricting access to birth control. Again, I went to school in the Bible Belt. I remember in like high school getting told, you go to the health department, they'll give you a bag of condoms for free. And everybody was like, what? And everybody was like, that's what I'm talking about. Even those, even if you didn't need them, you're like, yeah, I want a bag of condoms. That's cool. And I just can't imagine purposefully, eliminating all that and fucking just having these kids out there just getting down with no kind of protections in place whatsoever. I just can't imagine how that could possibly ever be a bad idea, Mark.
Yeah. I just can't keep track of Asa Hutchinson was on Arkansas's governor was on another morning show on Sunday and being questioned about this pro-life stuff. And he was asked, because Arkansas does not have a carve out in their anti-abortion bills for rape and incest. And he was like, the furthest left that he would go is to say he would consider signing an update to the law that allowed abortion for rape and incest. That's he would consider it. He feels in his hearts for those people. But J.D. Vance said, it's God's will that you were raped. So you have to bear. Essentially, it's bad luck for the woman. The woman got raped, but you still got to carry the kid to term.
That's another thing. I can remember we'd have debate in high school every now and then on hot button issues or whatever. We get taught some of these types of issues. And I can remember, maybe I'm crazy, you tell me if you remember it differently, but I feel like back then, whenever I learned about the abortion debate and the whole conversation and what was going on with it, I felt like it was almost a given that it was some people think abortion is wrong, except for rape, incest, and when it endangers the life of the mother. I remember those three things being listen, we all kind of agree that, in these extreme cases, it's necessary. The conversation is about all the other times. But that's just, they're not doing that anymore. They're literally no, if you get raped, not only are you shit out of luck, we'll sue your ass if you're trying to do anything about it. And it's just it's not even just rolling back the clock, I guess is what I'm saying. It's it's worse. It's going too far, beyond the opposite direction. It's worse than what I thought the alternative would have been, if I'd have known this was going to happen 15 years ago or whatever.
There's a piece in Slate from a month or two ago. The headline was literally, "We're not going back to before Roe. We're headed somewhere worse." And the thesis of the piece, and this is months ago, so it didn't even know the full reality, was that when you combine, even when abortion was illegal, the restrictions were subject to providers.
Right.
Women didn't get thrown in prison for the most part. That wasn't what happened. These bills are throwing women in prison.
Right.
Literally,
it's already literally happened, right? Was it Oklahoma? A woman in Oklahoma had a miscarriage, and she had also done drugs, and they used that to charge her with manslaughter or something.
Yeah.
So,
she's
it's already happening.
she's one of like somebody they found 16 women in the past few years. I think they were in prison for having miscarriages under those states' abortion laws. Because the thing is, like, okay, you're like, okay, well, you shouldn't do drugs when you're pregnant. Okay, sure, but like, if you think I know that the thing is like, well, if you're white, you're probably fine, and we know this works in America. That may very well be true. This woman happened to not be white, but like anything you do that ends your pregnancy. What if most doctors say you can have like half a glass of wine every now and then when you're pregnant. What if you have a miscarriage after that? A prosecutor can throw you in prison, right? What if you, I don't know, work out slightly too hard and then coincidentally have a miscarriage? Can you prove that you riding your Peloton didn't cause your miscarriage? Because you can be on the hook for that.
Yeah.
This is just another reason you don't want to put the government between the person and their fucking doctor, because the government's not qualified to make these decisions. And going back to the rape thing, I wanted to point out, I saw this number. I had no idea that it was this high, but the best guesstimate is 32,000 pregnancies a year in America are the product of rape. So this is a lot of women who are being sentenced by the government to be punished for the crimes of their attacker. Nationally, let's just go state by state for a second real quick, because it's a long list of shit that's just happened in the last few days. We talked about Arizona and Tennessee. We didn't mention this, but Mitch McConnell floated killing the filibuster to pass a national heartbeat bill.
What happened to fucking states' rights? You know what I mean? I thought that was the whole deal here. That's what they were really doing, is they were just taking the federal government out of it and letting states have the control. And it's not even been a fucking week, and they're already like, no, yeah, we might use the federal government to enact this everywhere. Fuck the states' right. If a state wants the right to make abortions legal, well, we got to get rid of that state's rights. That state's rights, they're not good.
There is no point in taking them seriously when they say stuff, because they don't have actual beliefs other than we should be in control of stuff. The Missouri GOP is debating a bill to ban women from traveling out of state for abortions, which we'll get to how they'll know whether you did that or not, because we'll talk about that in a second. But Tennessee passed a law to make it a felony to receive abortion medication via the mail. Arkansas trigger law would make it a felony to obtain an abortion. North Dakota governor pledged a special legislative session to pass new abortion restrictions. Oklahoma passed a Texas-style abortion bounty hunter law. Ohio Republicans are debating two different trigger laws that would immediately ban abortion once Roe is overturned. Ohio is trying to reinstate a federal fetal heartbeat bill after it was struck down by the courts. Idaho is passing a law authorizing civil lawsuits against abortion clinics and providers. That's just a bunch of shit. Probably the worst one was Louisiana passed a law that would allow murder charges for abortions. But the law is written so fucking broadly that essentially you could get a murder charge for having an IUD, because they don't actually know anything about how pregnancy and women's bodies work. And neither the fuck do I. I just read this article.
Right. But we're not, you and I are not making laws governing or related to how women's bodies, but like they don't know how it works, because all the people involved with coming up with this shit is a bunch of old white dudes. So the law defined life beginning when the sperm meets the egg, so it's still in the fallopian tubes. And I guess what IUDs do is prevent implantation. So it's not clear whether the law would get you a murder charge for having an IUD or getting a new IUD after the law is passed. We'll let the courts sort that out, I guess. But like this fucking dumbass is talking about how, like, well, we're in the middle of saying, is it rude to yell at Brett Kavanaugh's porch? Louisiana put in their law that they wrote in the law that the state would be allowed to disregard federal court rulings that contradicted the new law. One, you can't do that. I know.
We fought a civil war over this.
Right. That's what I was. Yeah, I saw that one and I was like, but isn't that like a whole thing that you can't can't just do that? They're just out here just doing whatever, man.
The Republicans will have some fucking random judge in the middle of nowhere overturn the entirety of the Biden administration's immigration policy.
Right.
And they're like, well, what are you going to do? And this guy writes in the bill, fuck judges, we're doing whatever we want. And it's also, well, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. It's like, there's a famous, I think it was Andrew Jackson quote where he had an initiative overturned by the Supreme Court. And he said, the Chief Justice has made his ruling, let him enforce it. Essentially the same thing Trump said about by who.
Right.
The Supreme Court doesn't have an army.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, we should have rule of law and stuff, but also like one side's playing by made up rules, the other side's making up their own rules.
And also, and I feel like one side feels as though also they've been signaled by the Supreme Court that they're on the same team where all this shit
Yeah.
is concerned. Do you know what I mean? So
Oh.
they're not worried about them anyway.
Yeah, I mean the Federalist Society makes sure they're all on the same team before they even come within distance of sniffing the court. One way in which this is going to be worse than before, and how state where you travel outside, is tech, big tech stuff. There's a data broker that just had to reverse course. What they were doing is they were selling location data, including people who visited abortion clinics. So let's say you live in Missouri and you want to travel to Chicago to get an abortion. You're like, well, I just say I'm going to look at I'm going to catch a Bulls game, right? How's the government going to know? Well, your data's out there. It'll know you went to Planned Parenthood if you take your phone with you. That's why you're seeing women online say you got to delete period tracker apps off your phone so the government won't know when you're pregnant. And
such sci-fi dystopian shit, man. It's wild. Yeah. Fucking like we're not that far removed from thought crime and shit like that,
Yeah, this company called SafeGraph was the main purveyor of this data. And just so you know, the Supreme Court has ruled the police have to get warrants to get location data from phone companies. But nowhere does it say that a private organization say that's hardcore pro-life can't buy the apps, but buy the data from these apps and give it to the cops. That's right. That's just in the course of business. That's just normal snitching. The courts aren't going to be able to stop that. This company called SafeGraph, which, by the way, one of the main investors, Peter Thiel.
You guessed it.
He's back, baby. He's all over this stuff. He's gay, by the way, so not that matters for anything, except he's not worried about any of this shit affecting him personally. They got caught. Motherboard, which is a tech blog, went and bought a bunch of their data and used it to track down specific people who went to abortion clinics and confronted them about it. And they go, actually, we're going to stop doing that. But instead, what they did is they spun off a side company and moved those data selling decisions to the smaller company. They've sold 2 years of disaggregated specific location data on millions of people to the Illinois government starting in 2019. And the federal government, after 9/11, started up all these different intelligence gathering operations with local law enforcement. So they're called fusion centers, but they're like regional terrorism threat detectors, but they've been using them to crack down on protesters. And they've, I think it's also in Illinois, one of the fusion centers run by the federal government, partnered with local law enforcement, used intelligence to crack down a bunch of pro-choice protesters. They arrested 7 women, because they said one of them threw pee on somebody. So 7 women are in prison because one of them threw pee on somebody. And that's because of the Patriot Act. And so all this stuff is going to be way worse than before Roe. Except, I guess the upside is maybe we have better. There will be, YouTube tutorials on how to do at home, what pill cocktails to take. That's where we're going to be for a while.
Jesus Christ. I mean, yeah, but you're right, though. And another one I saw was, I don't remember which state, but they were going to make it, either try to make it illegal or make it a finable offense or something for private companies to pay for employees to travel to get an abortion if they have to travel to another state to get an abortion. It's like, what happened to the free market? They're doing that because it's cheaper than maternity leave. All right. Like it's still fucking money when it comes to these corporations. And why are you standing in the way of them doing what's best for their shareholders? Like I thought we lived in a free market society. Why is that okay for you to do? That sounds like government overreach to me. This whole thing sounds like government overreach. And it's just like none of this ever applies as long as it benefits whatever their stance is on a given subject. Like none of their principles ever apply as long as, they help them, justify the ends of their means, whatever the fuck, what I'm trying to say.
The only principle is power. I saw people unironically saying that protesting at Brett Kavanaugh's home is wrong because your home is a private place and he has a right to privacy. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He just ripped privacy out of the hands of, half the population forevermore.
The guy who runs that StephGraph company, I told you Peter Thiel is one of the big investors, but the guy that runs the company's name is Orrin Hoffman. And they got kicked off the Google store for violating data protection services. So they have a track record of being shitty with this stuff. But the thing that struck me as funny is he got punished by Wikipedia too, because he was continually editing his own Wikipedia page to tell a better story about himself. So while this guy is selling your private data about what doctor you visit, he's trying to keep you from knowing he's a shithead and keep all his secret by deleting stuff off his fucking Wikipedia page.
Right.
They only believe in privacy for themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
We didn't get a chance to play the video, but in Congress today, they were talking about this stuff, and some shithead congressman from a senator from Montana.
Which do you want me to try to find it real quick? I can try to.
I'll highlight it in the rundown if you can play it.
Yeah,
you gotta see this to be believable.
That right there. Okay, hang on, everybody. Remember, like we said, producer Matt, he left us, but which that's okay. But oh yeah, I'm glad you said this. Okay, yeah, this is wild. Hang on. All right. Screen share here. Highly technical operation we run over here at the Skews, and let's see if this does it. Share tab audio. You saying that, Mark?
Yeah.
Law.
You hear it?
If you were to take or destroy the eggs of a sea turtle, now I said the eggs, not the hatchlings, that's also a penalty, but the eggs. The criminal penalties are severe, up to a $100,000 fine and a year in prison. Now why? Why do we have laws in place that protect the eggs of a sea turtle or the eggs of eagles? Because when you destroy an egg, you're killing a preborn baby sea turtle or a preborn baby eagle.
All right.
Yet when it comes
so, couple of things about this. One, what the fuck?
Right.
That's Senator Steve Daines of Montana, I believe. Two, the presumption here, I would assume, is that the sea turtle mom or the eagle mom wants to keep the kid.
Right.
So,
also, like, humans are not critically endangered or whatever.
Yes.
Like, you have to go above and beyond in the protection of some of these species because of what we have done to them and their environments and everything, including taking measures to protect, their eggs, because some fucking redneck will make an eagle omelet or whatever if you don't make it illegal to do so.
The world's most patriotic omelet, Trey. You eat them on July 4th. But yeah, that's not even like the equivalent analogy. The analogy here would be we put a sea turtle in jail because she kicked an egg out of the nest because she decided she didn't want to raise a baby sea turtle.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, in his defense, I guess we got to set up a program where the sea turtles can drop off their baby eggs at the fire department. And then...
There you go. See, now you're thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, again, producer Matt left toward the end of the show, which is why we didn't get to the comments and stuff, because I would have had to do that, and y'all know I can't keep up with the various things at once, so sorry about that. But we thank you all for sticking around with us. Real quick, if you want to see me live this summer, you go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out my dates I got going there. Also, if you want to support the show and get some extra material from us, you can go to weeklyskews.com/more. or Patreon and look me up. Sign up for the Skews tier, $5 a month. You get full-length bonus episodes. We're having fun with it. And lastly, I want to say happy birthday to my little sister, Paige, who is 33 years old today. Happy birthday, Sissy. Paige. Love you very much. Thank you all for being here, for watching once again. I love y'all too. Love you like chicken. And one last time, I had eye surgery. I'm not just being super cool, okay? Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week.